Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray and I teach watercolor, and today we are doing our snow rabbit tutorial. We are going to be doing this project in 6 steps. So our very first step is we're going to put in our background and our shadow. Our second step is we are going to do the shadows on the bunny and the pink on the ears and the nose. Our third step is we're going to do the eye. Our fourth step is we're going to do the berries. Our fifth step is we're going to do any extra shadow on that bunny or rabbit. I don't know the difference. And the last step is we are going to do bleed-proof white splatters for snow.
That sounds great. I do know the difference. Would you like to hear?
I would like to hear.
I only know this because I looked it up last time we painted something like this.
Okay.
Bunny is old school slang for cute. So you would say a bunny rabbit, like a cute rabbit. You could say a bunny boy. You could say a bunny. That's a bunny puppy. Yeah.
So this should have been called a snow bunny because this is a cute bunny.
Or a snow bunny rabbit.
Oh.
Like bunny just means cute.
Oh, okay. Snow bunny rabbit. Well, I'm just calling it snow rabbit, but
There you go.
Good
It's
to
a
know.
safer bet.
Okay, so we're using quite a few supplies in this project that I'm really excited about. The first two that I want to talk about is brand new colors to our Dandelion Paint Co. So if you were part of our November box, you got 4 new colors, and we're adding to that. So the first color here is Seasalt, which is a favorite of mine. It's just this really lovely desaturated blue with a little bit of gray and a little bit of green. It's fabulous. The other colors we are going to be using are deep yellow and black and bleed-proof white, which I'm not going to swatch because it's white. And then we have 2 pigment powders here that I have ready. We have a blue silver pigment powder and a red gold pigment powder. So I'm going to be using all of those. Okay.
We're going crazy with this one.
We are going crazy. I love a good supply list. It's just kind of fun. Okay. I'm using 4 paintbrushes, round 2, round 6, round 12, 1-inch wash, but please use whatever supplies that you have. Using Hallmark soft tape to tape down my paper. And let's do our oath and then get into it.
That sounds great.
Okay, so if you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you very much.
Look, is that Elvis?
Yeah.
Good.
I watched The Parent Trap last night with my daughter, and the part where she was like, thank you very much. I'm like, oh my gosh, I used to say that all the time. Okay, so when we do our wash, I'm going to try and keep in mind 2 things. So I'm going to lay the whole thing down with water using my 1-inch wash, and then I'm going to add sea salt blue. I'm going to have more of a concentrated color right on the horizon line. And then when I get to this part, I'm going to do the lightest blue wash that I can because we will be painting red on top. So just try and do a transition from dark to light and then lighter, if that makes sense.
And then lightest even.
And then lightest. Okay, here we go. Just go for it. I will be avoiding my bunny rabbit.
I looked more into it while we were talking. The bunny thing.
Yeah.
It comes from the Scottish word bun, which is like when, you're married and you call each other, babe or honey or like a pet name.
Bun is a pet name?
Bun is Scottish for like, what's up, bun? And so that turned into bunny, which kind of then morphed into just like anything cute or that you like or that you're like into. Like, again, bunny cat, bunny dog.
That's cute.
Yeah.
I'm going to start calling you Bunny. What's up, Bun?
I got the fuzz, the face fuzz for it.
Okay, so I wet the entire area. I'm dropping in the sea salt just along the bottom. And then you can use your 1-inch wash to spread that color. And as you can see, I'm getting a little bit of an inconsistent wash here. That's okay. I'm totally fine with that because we're going to sprinkle some water splashes on this anyway. And so we're going to get an uneven line anyway. But I will say, to warn you, you're going to want to keep going around and around your bunny. But what's that going to do is that's going to create like a halo around your rabbit where there would be like a blue darker edge. So try to avoid that. Try to keep the sky awash as if the rabbit wasn't there. The sky doesn't work around the rabbit in real life.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can switch to your round 12 if you want to, and just kind of drop in more. So notice how I kind of avoided this right-hand side, but not so much so that it looks empty. See what I'm saying?
Uh-huh. Do you want to know a secret, a hot tip even,
Yeah.
for telling if a photo is very processed, like when you're looking at a picture on the internet? It does have a halo around the object. If someone messes with the brightness too much,
Yeah.
it will start to develop that. I don't know what causes it, if it's just programs aren't very smart or what, but you can see it. You'll notice it now.
So what I said isn't true?
No. What you said is
Just
true.
kidding. I'm just kidding, bud.
You s- We're married, by the way. We're married in case you don't know at home.
Okay, so I put in my sky. Thank you for that tidbit, dear. I put in my sky, and now I'm going to do like a hint of snow without using white. So this is a little trick I use sometimes if I don't have bleed-proof white, or if I want to give the hint of a storm but not have it be so much, is I will just splatter clean water into the wet part. And you'll see that wherever the water lands, that color is going to be pushed to the outside. So it's just going to create a soft little change.
That guy's eyeball looks terrifying. I'm imagining it's 2 pupils.
One, they're just glare spots. It's fine. And then we're just gonna leave that alone and let that dry. But you'll see it's already starting to kind of like pop out a little bit, and it's just a really lovely, soft way to do snow if you don't have
cool.
white.
Super cool.
Are you saying super cool?
Yeah, why?
Because I just heard like zip, zip, super zip.
Just mumbling.
All right, now let's do the shadow really quick. So I'm going to take some of this sea salt, and you might need to get some more. These new colors are beautiful, but because we wanted them to be more desaturated, they're not as concentrated, so you have to use a little bit more paint when you're painting with them. And that's normal. There's nothing wrong with the paint. They were made that way. Okay, so I'm going to take some of this sea salt, and I'm going to take a little bit of the blue silver and mix that into my sea salt. And we gave you little scoops in the box to help you guys scoop that onto your palette. Okay, so now that I have that, just right underneath here where the rabbit meets the snow, you can use your 6, you can use your 12. I'm just gonna do a thin line, and then I rinse my brush, hit it on my paper towel so it's not super wet, and then I'm just gonna blend out horizontally.
I would caution to not wear anything white while you're playing with those pigments.
Yeah.
I looked at those wrong yesterday, and now they're all over me.
Just wear an apron.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Usually I wear an apron, but
You're risking it all today.
yep. Now, and this is, so I just want to tell you how strong they are. Somehow I had a little bit of tiny gold powder somewhere, either on my paintbrush or on my palette or on my paper. And when you get that gold pigment wet, it turns red. So I have a little streak of pink, but I'm not going to stress out because I have bleed proof white. So I'm just going to cover it later. So it's not a big deal. But this is what I mean when I say use the different, like separate your scoops, try and keep them as separate as you can, because the gold and red specifically is strong. That thing is going to pop out. You can also try and like blend it out and lift up. That's the other thing with watercolor is like you can totally make adjustments. Okay, and then just for like rough texture, I'm going to grab a little bit more paint and just kind of like loosely paint around the shadow as well. And if your pigment powder is seeming too strong blue and you want it to be a little bit more gray, you have black. So you could just drop in a little bit of that too. But again, we're going for more horizontal strokes. Okay. Isn't that cool? The object already looks grounded and we haven't even painted the object yet. That's how cool shadows are.
It's like a ghost bunny.
It is. Okay, so we finished step one. We're going to move on to step two, where we are going to do the shadows on the bunny. But the first thing I want to do is make sure this is dry. So I'm going to let that dry, and we're going to mix a brown. And if I need to, I'll grab my heated craft tool. So for my brown mixture, I'm going to take the red gold and the black and some water. We're going to see how that turns out. So I'm going to take some of this. Okay.
It gets so red. It's
I know.
surprising.
And then a little bit of black and some water. This is going to be the ears and the nose, this pinky color. So we're trying to create like a desaturated pink tone, okay? So by doing the red gold and the black, that's going to create like kind of a purpley purpley fleshy color. And if you want to grab a tiny, tiny bit of deep yellow to warm it up, you can. That will make it more fleshy toned. And I'm just going to put that in because the rabbit does not need to be dry for this part. So I like to put it starting at the bottom, this like bottom V, and then I rinse my brush. I'm just going to spread that color out, leaving a very thin white rim along the top. 2 strokes, bunny ear, done.
Boom.
And then I'm going to switch to my 2 and take that same pink color. And we're just getting the slightest little, tiniest, cutest little nose. Nothing too detailed, just a little bloop.
I don't have a ton of rabbit experience, but I've seen a few. I do love how little noses move.
I know.
They're like, yeah. Oh, I'm zooming in on that. That's good.
Was that good?
You did it.
Okay, so that was it for like the inside of the ear and the nose. Now we need to make like a light value color that is going to act as a shadow on our rabbit to create the form. I'm going to go with like a tannish color. So I'm going to take some of my deep yellow and some black, and that's too much black. So let's do more deep yellow. There we go. So it's kind of turning into like a gray. And then I'm going to add more water onto that. Now, if this is reading too green to you, which is possible, when you add yellow and black together, it actually kind of makes a green. If that's too green and you're like, all I see is green, take a tiny bit of the red and mix in some of that like skin tone red in here, and that will neutralize the green. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And maybe even a little bit more black. It's hard because I want this rabbit to appear white, but I need to create a neutral for the shadows. But the color of the neutral that I use might inform the color of the rabbit. Like if I go to yellow or like brown, then you might be like, is that a brown bunny? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to add a little extra gray, extra black with water to kind of like really neutralize it. Okay. That looks pretty good. And then the painting white animals is one of my favorite things in the world because it's actually very simple. Always start lighter than you think because you can always add more later, so it's not a big deal. So just pick up a little bit of paint, and all we're really doing is we're letting the white of the paper be the white color of the animal. So all we have to do is paint the parts that are a little bit shadowed. And you paint things that are shadowed are things that are further away from you or are turning away. So like we will also use the values to communicate the different parts of the body, as in the head is a separate piece from the body. I mean, they're connected, but like head, body. So we need to put a little bit of a shadow where the neck meets the head and the body because one is round. You know what I'm saying? Like they're 2 different masses.
Right.
So right underneath here, you can use your 6 or your 12. I'm going to follow the outline. And notice that I'm just doing little dashes. You don't have to do like thick, solid lines. And then I'm going to rinse my brush. Probably should get a clean paper towel. And then I'm just going to kind of blend blend it out. Now this is where, if it starts to get darker than you wanted, you can use clean water and lift too. But we're just trying to create just a little bit of a shadow. Okay? And even that, I'm like, that might be too yellow. So let's maybe grab a tiny bit more gray. And then right here, which is like this like puff of fur on their chest. And again, I'm kind of using the tip of my 12 to kind of do these like thinner furry lines. And then I rinse my brush and I'm just going to pull color from what's there. And remember too that watercolor tends to dry lighter than when it is wet. So I'm looking at my bunny and part of me wants to go in and like already adjust the color of this, but I'm going to wait a second. I'm going to let it dry first. The best thing that you can do is if you're not sure about an area is to give it a moment to finish doing whatever it's doing before you decide to mess with it. Unless you immediately know you want to lift, then that's what you want to do quickly. Okay. And then we have like these kind of hind legs back here. And don't forget too, like the tops of the foot are gonna have a little bit of a shadow because that furry body is over the foot, casting a shadow onto the foot. And the foot is coming out of the body. So we need to show that there's a little bit of a shadow there. But really it's very minimal what we're adding to this rabbit. And we always have bleed proof white. So if something happens where you're just like, I really don't like this area, we'll take bleed proof white, do a swoop of white over it.
That front fur patch reminds me of a bib,
Yeah, I can see
a
that.
bunny bib.
Now that's all I can see.
He's getting ready to have Thanksgiving.
Me and you both, my friend. Like,
Mhm.
let's do this.
It's coming up.
Okay, I'm going to switch to my 6, just using kind of a smaller brush. And we're going to add, kind of following these dotted lines around the eye. We're going to put that in there. Now, I don't talk about the outlines as much, but you'll notice in the outlines that I have straight lines, like solid lines and dashed lines. The dashed lines are there to help you know that there's a value change and not like a new form.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then here, kind of around the mouth. And then along kind of the top of the nose.
Rabbits can get huge. I actually recently saw a picture of a rabbit, like a woman holding a rabbit, and it was almost as long as her when it was stretched out.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah, they get big. I don't know the breed names, but one of them is huge.
I don't know the breed names either, but that's nuts. Okay, and then we're gonna do a little kind of, you know how ears have kind of like this little lip around them?
Yes.
So even along the bottom, we're gonna kind of like put in that white lip a little bit. And then just kind of blend it. Okay. I'm gonna add a little bit of gray and kind of revisit this shadowed area. Kind of introduce some gray in there since it was reading warmer than the other shadows. And then to kind of like break up this bib, that's the only thing I can see. I'm going to like mess up this kind of line right here. So I'm just going to put a little bit of shadow along the bottom.
I didn't want to make you insecure about your bib. I liked it.
I mean, it became very apparent, and I was just like, "Oh shoot, that is a bib. Let's fix that."
The big rabbit breed is Flemish Giant.
Flemish Giant.
Yeah, there you go.
So one thing that you can do if you create a chunk that's all you can see, like if the bib is all we can see now, you can do two things. You can mess up this line by putting in like moving that shadowed value into it. The other thing that you can do is take bleed proof white and mess up that line as well.
I love these light paintings. They're so subtle.
They are subtle. And that's what I wanted. I wanted something like just like I wanted to capture that feeling of, when it's a fresh snow and it's a fluffy white and the sky is a very similar color to the snow, like there's a little bit of a color, and then you see this pop of red, either from like a cardinal or berries. You know what I mean? And I wanted everything to be a very similar value except for these bright red winter berries.
Mm.
So you see how just putting in kind of like a white through here kind of messed up that line and it doesn't feel as bibby?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I feel better about that.
Also, for you at home who need another winter berry with color, the juniper berries are popping at our house, and they're a beautiful blue color.
Ooh, they are. They really are. I'm like, juniper berries aren't red.
Juniper berries are actually cones for all you plant nerds out there.
Oh.
They're camouflaged cones.
Okay, now I'm taking my round 2 and just doing another little layer around the eyeball. Again, we want to keep our values really soft, really light.
Sorry.
You okay?
Yeah, just hit my watch on the table.
Okay. And just so you know, your rabbit's going to look super wonky until we do an eyeball, so please don't judge the shadows yet, okay?
The alien eyeball.
And there's like I like to use this kind of grayish color for the mouth. I love this bunny because he looks like he can't be bothered. And I love that about him.
Winter vibe.
Winter vibe. And then there's the hint of a tail right here. But because of the angle, we don't see this nice big fluffy tail. If you want to add one, you can. But I'm just going to kind of put a little shadow right here as if to try and separate this back. And then if you're feeling edgy, you can take bleed proof white and just start to put the hint of a little. But that's up to you. Or you can keep it kind of like that, more flat. Okay. Good job, team. We're doing great. Now we're going to move on to step 3. We're going to do the black of the eyes and a little bit of the nostril and one more layer on our ears. So you're going to want to switch to your round 2. This takes a lot of control because it's a very small area. So something that I do that's really helpful if I don't feel confident with my tiny little paintbrush and black paint is just use a pen. Just use a black pen.
All right.
There's nothing wrong, especially when we're doing the like eye line part around the eye where it's a little thin black line. Use a pen. Make it easier on yourself.
Is it looked down on to use a pen? Are you the art friend? Is it you the whole time? Spoiler alert.
No, we want to call it the art police.
The art police.
Because some art friends are nice.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
I believe it when I see
I'm
it.
an art friend. I feel like. Am I your art friend? Well, some people, yeah. And there's just a bunch of different thoughts about it of like, well, if you include pen, does that make it a true watercolor? Is it now mixed media? And I'm going to be honest, I can't be bothered to even answer that question. I don't care. Do whatever you want. I wouldn't consider that a mixed media if you do like one line of a pen. I don't know. Also, I'm sure the quality of the pen matters. And if you're trying to do like museum quality paintings and like maybe that's looked down upon, I don't know.
I've been to a lot of museums. I don't know if any museum I've ever seen would disqualify a beautiful piece of art because it had other elements in it. You know what I mean?
It's not because it has other elements. It's more like, is this museum quality, as in, will it fade? Will it smudge? Will it immediately disappear?
Gotcha.
That's what I mean by like museum quality.
Got you.
Okay. So I picked up black paint. I am going to smush my bristles to make it an even thinner line. So after I pick up paint, I flatten my bristles on one side, flip it over, flatten it the other side. That's going to turn my tip into a nice little point. And now I'm going to paint very carefully around. And what's tricky with doing little things like this is your brush has to be a certain wetness in order for the paint to be smooth. But whenever you add water to your brush, the bristles thicken because there's water there. So that's why I try and do the pinch method, if you will. And I'm going to paint around the glares. There's 2 of them, and you'll notice in our reference photos that the bottom one is not as prevalent. And that is because we are going to soften that one, and the top one stays white. Now remember, we have bleed-proof white, so if it all goes to, excuse my language, if it all goes to hell and you need to just like paint the entire thing black and then just drop in a white dot, you can.
I am so offended.
Sometimes kids are listening. Sorry, children. And then I like to fill it in, and then I'll go and kind of shape it. Do a nice little point in the corners. Make sure it's nice and rounded.
You guys at home, wouldn't it be so funny if off camera Sarah just talks like a trucker?
A sailor.
Just the worst mouth ever.
I can neither confirm nor deny. Okay, so there's our little eye. And it's going to look creepy right now because that bottom glare is super bright. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. We're just going to give that a minute to dry. And I'm going to put in the little nostril on the nose. And we can't really see the other nostril because it's turning away from us. So if you want to do like a little hint of one, you can, but don't make it as thick as the one that is facing us because that perspective, we're not looking at it face on. See what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
There's like a little extra line right here. Okay. Now what we are going to do is I'm going to wet my brush and then hit out my paper towel so it's just kind of damp. And then I'm going to blend over that bottom glare. So it's a light gray now. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Voila.
Voila.
We got a dope eyeball, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel like that having glares in your eyes and then having different values of glare in your eye is what's going to elevate your work when you're doing animal portraits or even people. Not all glares are the same value. So if you can just like pay attention to those differences in values, then you can really make an eye pop. Okay. And I feel like I need to like soften this one a little bit. There we go. Yeah, that looks good. And a good way to tell, usually glares are a little bit smaller. And so for me, I like to start them out big. So on the outline, that both of those glare spots are big. And then as I add more and more, I like shrink them down a little bit. And the reason why I start that way is if you start with tiny little dots on the eyes, there's like no space and they like totally disappear.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Unless you have bleed-proof white.
Yes, and then you can just go back in and add them, so it's not a big deal. You might be asking, well, why don't you just do that anyway? You can. The only thing is, bleed-proof white, it's wonderful because you can get a nice opaque white, but sometimes you lose the luminosity, is that the right word, of the white paper.
Sounds good to me.
I feel like white paper is a brighter white than white paint because white paint tends to be matte. And a white paper, I feel like just kind of the light shines better on it. I wish I could describe that better, but that's why I do it that way. And also you run the risk of having too much water on your white when you add it, which makes it not totally opaque and will make a gray color instead of a bright white. So let's just let the white of the paper do the work for us. Okay. I'm going to take a little bit more of this like fleshy red
Rabbit flesh.
rabbit
We're naming that
flesh.
color. It's official.
And just right here where it meets inside here, I'm going to do another layer. And the reason why I'm doing that is because whenever we're painting holes into the inside of the body, the closer the hole is to the body, the darker it gets. And that's how we show that the hole continues through into the body.
Ears are weird when you think about them.
So weird. So I put the color down and then I'm just taking a damp round 6 and blending it.
Oh, that gave it
out.
way more depth.
Yep. So just another little layer. And when you see that depth, you're like, oh, I believe that if I stick a finger in there, it keeps going. But that was the worst possible way I could have said.
I'm keeping this in.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we did the eyes and the ears. Now we're going to do the berries. Now the berries are a super fun part. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round 6. I'm going to paint the berries that I have outlined here using just water. And then I'm going to sprinkle the pigment powder in them and really let that pigment powder move and do cool things. Okay?
Okay.
So I have my 6. And I'm just kind of loosely. And you could do more berries than what I have here. And we're going to start by putting these berries in using just water. And then after we sprinkle in our pigment powder, new berries might appear. And then we just go, great. Now that area also has a berry.
Have you seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail?
Have I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember the very vicious rabbit on that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, there's like a rabbit. It's like an attack rabbit.
That's funny.
When there was little red smudges on your snow, I was thinking you could turn this into a Monty Python painting.
Okay, so I wet the area, moving pretty quickly. I'm going to grab my scoop with the gold, and then I'm just going to kind of hit it on my fingers. And you'll see sometimes it just goes, and then other times we're going to come back in and kind of round some of these out. But we're really just letting this feel a bit more atmospheric.
I can't believe how different the rabbit's coloring looks to the snow, even though they're the same white. The hints of the shadow make it feel so different.
Oh, you mean like the blue and the warm?
Yes, they look like different whites.
Yes, and I did that on purpose because it's just okay, we have a white bunny on white snow. How am I going to communicate that these are two different white things?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make the body warmer and I'll make the snow cooler in their shadows.
It reminds me of one of those tricks, those color eye tricks where it looks like brown in one and orange in another, and then you see them next to each other. I'm describing this.
No,
very
I
poorly.
know what you're saying. Yes, yes.
I know that the white part of that bunny is the same white as that ground, but I don't believe it.
Okay, so now I sprinkled it in, and at first, when you don't round it out, it's going to look a little bit like a blood splatter, but it's okay. It's going to be fine. We're going to go in and round out these berries. So if you can still see your outlines, you can just follow those shapes. There are some, like this one right here, is so beautiful that I'm not going to smooth that out. So you might encounter some berries where that color filled in nicely and followed the shape of the water and you don't need to touch it. And then there are some where you're just like, that's just a sprinkle, so I need to touch it, you know?
They're all very, very beautiful.
And then notice that this pigment powder is super interesting because sometimes it feels more purpley and sometimes it feels more orange and sometimes it feels more like gold. And that's because there's multiple different pigments within the pigment powder along with the metallic. So I say embrace the differences of reds you're going to get and just kind of have fun with it. And if you if there's a lot of gold powder in some of them, and you need to add a lot more berries, do that. Or if you're fine with just kind of the powder hanging out, you don't have to put berries everywhere. So it's just up to you. Now, if you're like, what do I do with this excess powder if I don't turn it into a berry? What you can do is after this has totally dried, I would just do a quick on it.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to take my hand and smear it because that could
Maybe
turn it red.
maybe do the blow outside because again, that pigment powder is vicious and it will probably like get all over your counters.
Yeah, please don't inhale.
Yeah, don't inhale.
Don't like bring it up and go before you blow out. Oh, look, my heated craft tool is moving some of it too. That's good. I wonder if I could just do a quick. Another way that you can do this, if you really don't like sprinkling it in and you really hate not having that control, is you can mix on your palette, the pigment powder with water to create red and paint with that, like we did with the cardinals in the previous tutorials and all that kind of stuff. I personally like the variation that I get though when I sprinkle it in, because you'll see that I have these like different concentrated areas, and I think that's fun. Okay. Now we need to do our branches. So I'm going to take a round 2. I'm going to make a brown. You can take some deep yellow, some black, and some of this red pigment powder and mix all 3 of those together to get a brown. If your brown is looking too red, then I would put in a little bit more black and a little bit more yellow. And now I have a nice good brown. And I just want you guys to know something that I've noticed with people who are starting to learn to paint is they want to have exact color mixtures and formulas when they paint. But just so you know how I painted, I'm not sure if everybody is this way, but I mix as I go, and then I just react to whatever is mixing in front of me. In my head, I don't have these formulas where I'm like, 3/4 of this and 1/4 of this equals this color. It's more like I just start pulling the colors together, and then I react to that color mixture and add more to get where I need to go. And it's okay to do that. And you might say, well, how do I know which colors to add? It just takes practice. And just familiarize yourself with complementary colors. I feel like complementary colors are like the king of understanding color theory.
You wanna know what's so funny?
What?
Well, I'm the opposite. I'm the one who wants, the exact gram weight of red. But you and I cook together all the time, and when you cook, you are to the T of a recipe. And
Yes.
I am just like throwing stuff in. It's funny that they're opposites.
I know, that is funny. I think it's because I like to bake a little bit more than you do. Although you make bread and you have to be really exact with bread.
Yeah. I mean, just like in cooking, like
Yeah.
stovetop cooking.
Yeah, that's true. I'm also way more what's the word? First, wait, let me say this. When you add your branches, start thick. Let them get a little bit wavy and let them thin out. And you don't have to follow the outline exactly. You could do more branches than what's in the outline. Just kind of respond to your painting. And please know that people aren't going to be staring at your branches to make sure that they're like consistent and totally true. Like branches are super wonky. People are going to know that this is berries with branches. I think I'm a little bit more timid when it comes to cooking and flavor, where like if I add salt, I'm like, taste it, taste it. And then Michael is just like, oh, and then I'm like, did you taste it? He's like, nah, it's fine. And I'm like, how do you not taste it while you're cooking? So we just have different methods.
Goes without saying that sometimes I have very salty food.
It doesn't happen often though. When we first were cooking, it happened. One time we made these mashed potatoes for friends that were so salty that I think we just ordered.
We went out.
We went out to dinner.
Somewhere.
We're like, we're going to make you dinner. We made this dinner. We're like, we're going to go out to eat. But gosh, that was probably
10 years ago.
Over 10 years ago. Okay, so I'm just kind of connecting them. And you can have them kind of cross too. And it might get to a place where you're like, where did these even end up? It's fine. They're branches. They're wonky.
I always heard growing up that red berries were all poisonous.
Oh yeah?
I don't know. I've always been scared to try one.
Me too. I'm not edgy when it comes to that. I do not try random berries out in the wild. Okay. So we put in our branches and now we're going to move on to step 5. This is where if we've let our rabbit dry and we can go back to it and say, oh, you need a little extra love here or there, that kind of stuff. We definitely need to add a little bit of that like pinkish color, that rabbit flesh color onto the little tootsies, little toes,
The Tootsies. Love it.
little tootsies on the feet. And I'm going to grab an even stronger shadow color, so a little bit more gray in my tan for right underneath the feet. And notice that these are just like very small brush strokes with my round 2. It's not super detailed. I'm not going crazy here. Just a hint. We want to make it very clear. These are feet coming out from underneath the body, so they just need to be more shadowed. And this is the belly. The belly's just hanging out.
Me too, bunny. Me too.
I did do, the first time I tried this project, I tried to do the berries along with the background, and this red pigment powder went like everywhere. I started getting it all over my painting, so I had to like really separate it and make it its own thing. But in all projects that I teach, I want you to know that like you can approach a painting differently than how I approach it. And just because I did this one area first doesn't mean that you can't do it a different way. That's just how I approached it, you know?
All right.
Okay, so I added the little feet. Those seem a little bit more solid to the ground. And then I'm going to take that too, and I'm going to add little fur texture. So I like to do longer lines that are thin, like so, just kind of here and there. Let's see. Is that too, that might be too dark. And if that ever happens where you do like a detail line shadow and it's too dark, you can just kind of blend it out. Let it dry and then come back and try again with a little bit lighter value. So I'm going to let that dry. Let that dry. Grab a little bit more water in my gray mixture here. And again, just kind of like these longer strokes. Just giving a hint like, yes, this is long white fur.
And so soft.
And so soft. And then kind of around the eyes. Now be a little bit careful when adding shadows underneath the eyes because you can give them bags real quick. So
Listen, bunnies are tired too.
I get it.
I get
Are
it.
you a mom? I get it. And little smaller dashes around the eyes and the nose. Think of the length of the fur on a rabbit. It's more fuzzy along the areas of the nose and the eyes and the ears, and then their body is the one that has the longer hair. So I just change up the length of my brush stroke to communicate those different lengths of the fur. So just again, little dashes. And then when I get to the body, and it's always better to do a little bit less. So I'm just doing hints of texture. I'm not trying to do this kind of line detail across the entire thing. Okay.
Okay.
It's really easy to kind of flatten your painting if I were to do that. So I'm just going to like tell myself, even though they're really fun and some of my favorite things to add, I'm telling myself, stop. Okay. So that feels good. Oh, what a cute little, I mean, come on. That's such a cute little guy. We're going to add a darker shadow on our berries. So I'm going to take a bit more black and mix it in with my red pigment powder or gold pigment powder, whatever you want to call it.
Mm.
And using this really like deep red color, I'm going to go along to some of these berries. And I like to do kind of like along the bottom, a half circle, and then you take your brush and you just kind of spread out that color. So see how those feel more dimensional than these?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do this part if you're just like, I just like the shape of mine. Then leave it. One of my favorite things is when people tell me, like students tell me no. I'm like, what if you did this? And they're like, no, I like this. And I'm like,
Okay.
yes,
Yep.
okay, I respect you. You know, like, and I love that so much because I think when we are willing to trust ourselves creatively over what other people are telling us to do, that's when we know that we can create work independently. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. I think it's beautiful when our own artistic styles pop out and when people are willing to kind of like fight for it a little bit. Not like rude, but just
Like
say
putting
like,
too much salt in the sauce.
yes.
I defend it.
You taste the over salted mashed potatoes and you
It's
say,
so good.
I regret nothing. Let's go out to eat.
That was my play all along.
But I will say that Michael is a much better cook than I am. And so like, I feel like it's paid off, your willingness to just kind of like not follow a recipe and explore.
It all started in the early days of a huge disdain for doing dishes, and I didn't want to have to wash the tablespoon and the teaspoon. So I was like, I'm going to guess what a tablespoon's like. And it's taken me a while, but I think I'm there.
We're pretty close. Sometimes I measure it out and then put it in my hand to be like, mentally be like, this is a tablespoon. So then one day I could just recognize it. Not quite there.
I love how you guys probably know this at home, but Sarah uses her hands to measure everything.
I do.
I just love that you're trying to do it for volumes now, too. You're like just pouring milk into your hand. It's quarter cup.
There was this one time we were talking about the weight of something. It was for one of these boxes. I don't even know. It was years ago, but it was for like a subscription box. And they were talking about the weight of a pen. And I'm like, hold on, let me hold it. And I was just like holding the pen like this. And everybody was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know. I thought I'd be able to tell how heavy it is.
17 grams.
List that up to embarrassing moments for Sarah, number million. I don't know. Okay. So I feel really good about the shadows on my berry. If you're feeling extra, which I hope you are, we like being extra here. I'm going to do a little sheen using bleed proof white. Bleed proof white.
That adds a lot. I love the little finishing details of paintings.
Just a little pop.
Yeah.
Now they're nice and shiny berries.
Beautiful.
Okay. Now, we are on our very last step, which is any kind of finishing details. So I'm going to actually add a little bit more white to my little fluffy tail back here. And then sometimes something that I like to do just to soften the horizon line is I like to do a little bleed proof white going above it because it just kind of softens it. And then you're just like, is that fresh snow? Does that go stronger, like longer in the distance? It just kind of creates a little additional element. It's not crazy huge. It's just a little thing. And I'm going to cover up those red splatters that I accidentally made. And I like the bleed proof white because I think sometimes it lends itself to kind of that snow texture. Like that. And then let's do some splatters. If you want it, you can see how this dried, which is like really soft and lovely. But if you want a little extra something.
Speaking of watching The Parent Trap last night, that's what this motion reminds me of.
Me too.
Like, what are you doing? She's like, it's for the mountain lions.
I love that movie. I love the older one too.
It's all right.
That's the one I really fell in love with when I was younger.
I'm Team Lindsay.
Okay. That's it.
It's beautiful.
That's our project. I hope you had so much fun with this. It's one of those things that's a great lesson in playing with the softness of values and how even a light value can create form on something. And I think paired with kind of like the darkness of the eye, the dark values of the berries, that's really what makes this pop. So I hope that you feel free to explore this project, make it your own, change whatever you want, do whatever you want. You don't have to follow a thing I said. This is your painting and you're the artist. I think that's all I have to say.
All right.
Always a pleasure.
Anytime.
I'll see you later, bud. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.